6 p.m. TCH Online is on air. My name is Natalia Yarmola. In this news edition, the TCH team has gathered all the most important updates at this moment. To stay up to date with the top news of the day, hit the bell and like this episode. Operation Midas. Law enforcement has announced suspicions against 7 participants in a possible corruption scheme at Energoatom. This concerns a businessman, the head of a criminal organization, a former advisor to the Minister of Energy, the executive director for physical protection and security at Energoatom, and 4 back-office employees involved in money laundering. 5 people have also been detained in the case, but NABU has not specified who exactly. Since yesterday, the country has been following a large-scale operation conducted by NABU and SAP. Investigators have named it Midas. By the way, let me remind you, Midas is a mythical character best known for his ability to turn everything he touched into gold. The day before, NABU published 2 series of recordings where you can hear conversations of those involved in the case. All of them are under fictitious names. And today, NABU has released a 3rd part as well. Everything you need to know about this high-profile case has been gathered by TSN correspondent Alexander Romanyuk.
First, 350, 600, I'll take that for myself. This is yet another, already the 3rd part of NABU's investigation into possible corruption in the energy sector. The new video focuses on the leader of the criminal organization. Law enforcement refers to him by the code name Kherson. They claim that this very person controlled the operation of the so-called laundromat, where illegally obtained funds were laundered.
The activities of the Sugarman office or the laundromat were overseen by Kherson. The premises are located on the upper floors of a building on Hrushevsky Street in Kyiv. It was there that the individuals who needed to receive or transfer funds, as well as the amounts, were determined.
Yesterday, NABU reported 70 searches as part of the final stage of an operation called Midas. 7 suspects have already been announced and 5 people have been detained. According to the detectives, the corruption scheme looked like this. The individuals involved had information about Energoatom's contracts and demanded kickbacks of up to 15% from contractors. This included those who were building protection for energy facilities. If they refused to pay, they were threatened with blocked payments. Detectives believe that this way, they managed to launder $100 million. To legalize the funds, they used an office in the city center that belonged to former fugitive MP, now Russian Federation Senator Andriy Derkak. Photos of bags filled with money were publicly shared on social media. As before, NABU does not disclose the real names of those involved in the case. The media reports that under the alias Pseudo Kherson, detectives are allegedly referring to businessman Timur Mindic, who is close to the president. In the context of the case, former Minister of Energy and current Minister of Justice Herman Halushchenko is also mentioned. The Ministry of Justice has confirmed that searches were conducted at his premises. President Volodymyr Zelensky has responded to the Bureau's information. He stated, "Everyone who created corruption schemes must receive a clear procedural response."
There must be verdicts. And government officials must work together with NABU, together with law enforcement agencies, and work in the way that is necessary to achieve results. The
Ministry of Energy also confirmed that searches were conducted at their premises, and they are cooperating with the investigation.
It is very important that investigative actions are conducted transparently and openly, and all individuals, if such are identified, and if their guilt is proven in the usual manner, zero tolerance for corruption, must be held accountable.
Energoatom also responded. The company is convening a supervisory board to analyze the situation. Energoatom also clarified. They stated that the company did not suffer any losses due to the scheme uncovered by NABU.
We would like to emphasize separately that the incident that occurred in the company did not harm Energoatom's assets or financial standing, nor did it affect the fulfillment of production plans or the safety of nuclear power plant operations. Also,
yesterday, TSN sent a request to NABU asking for a comment regarding the individuals involved in the case and other details. But so far, it remains unanswered. Instead, the Bureau promises to publish a new part of its report soon. Alexander Romanyuk, TSN 1+.
Night attack on Odesa region. This time, the Russians targeted the Izmail district. Dozens of drones were flying toward the border town of Reni. A man was wounded, unable to reach the shelter in time. He suffered shrapnel wounds to his arms and legs. Civilian infrastructure in the city was damaged. As a result of the strikes, fires broke out at several energy facilities in the district. The Ukrzaliznytsia depot and administrative buildings were also damaged. After the night shelling, about 15,000 households in Odesa region remain without electricity. And due to today's attack on Odesa region, the Dyakivtsi border checkpoint on the border with Romania has suspended operations. There is no electricity there. Border guards say they are not accepting either pedestrians or vehicles and advise using other checkpoints, such as Krasnoyarsk and Porubne. One of the Russian drones entered Romanian territory today. This was reported by the country's Ministry of Defense. Due to wind and rain, they were unable to scramble aircraft. Around 1 o'clock at night, the drone crashed near the town of Grindu, which is 5 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. The Russians continue to advance into Pokrovsk. A video has appeared online showing infantry on bikes and motorcycles freely moving along the road on the southern outskirts. The Russians took advantage of the fog, which has shrouded Donetsk region for several days now. TSN sources reported that this video is also several days old. Later, footage appeared showing a parking lot of bikes abandoned on the road being shot up by pilots from the 68th Brigade, which is stationed in this section of the front. But there were no enemy infantry nearby. They managed to move into the city. Currently, according to TSN sources, there are more than 500 Russians among the defense forces in Pokrovsk. At the same time, Commander-in-Chief Syrsky stated in an interview with the New York Post that Russia has transferred hundreds of thousands of soldiers to attack Pokrovsk. And 4 Marine brigades and powerful mechanized groups are advancing on the city. There is still fighting in the city, and our units are still present there. The same goes for the outskirts, both in the south and in the western part. A correspondent from SN Tizhden, Alexander Zahorodny, visited near Pokrovsk. His report is next.
Pokrovsk district. We're carefully driving on the road.
What's the scariest thing for journalists at the front? No, not the shelling. The scariest thing is when you're near the front line and don't know the way. You're not sure you're not driving straight into enemy position.
We don't really like reversing. Me too.
Dozens of burned out cars on the road, shattered houses. We're near Kucheryevy Yar, where fierce fighting was still raging until recently.
Reverse gear.
The meeting with these fighters from the renowned 25th Sysheslav Airborne Brigade is heartfelt. Now they're a medic and a producer. But not so long ago, they were TCH cameramen Ivan Holovach and Alexander Rebenchuk. Each of them has filmed hundreds of reports from the front lines. Now they themselves are defending this country with weapons in their hands. Their work begins at dusk. The fighters quickly assemble the bombers. These are powerful quadcopters. Here we call them vampires. The enemy calls them Baba Yaga. A soldier with the call sign Krim is testing a new device. Just a few hours ago, he received an award from the president.
He was presented with the Order for Courage 3rd Class.
So, any kind of leave? No? Not the right time for leave?
It's just not the right time for leave yet.
And near Pokrovsk right now, there really is no time to rest. The commander with the call sign Bourgeois is urging his guys on. The vampires should already be at the front line. The situation at the front is tough.
Mironograd, Pokrovsk, and other positions are still holding, just like before. They stand firm, they hold on, they defend our land. There aren't really any fixed positions as such, but groups do infiltrate, they move, and they are destroyed.
This is how the commander describes the situation in Pokrovsk. The enemy infiltrates the city in small groups. They do not engage in combat with Ukrainian units. Their main objective is to get into our rear and establish themselves there. It turns into a kind of layered pie. The enemy is in the rear of our forces, but our troops are also in the enemy's rear. Ammunition, fuel, and food can only be delivered to the outskirts, only at night and with great risk. After that, the bombers get to work. These drones will fly all night long. They won't be bombing enemy positions. They will be rescuing our soldiers right in Pokrovsk. The first flight is for gasoline. Fuel means generators, it means charging radios, it means communication.
Some things will break, some won't. We drop it onto the net and then who knows how it'll go.
The enemy roughly knows where our positions are and constantly turns on jammers. And now this is already Dnipropetrovsk region. It's dozens of kilometers to the front line, but the Russians can reach here, and they do. They hit this strategic facility. Or to be more precise, a strategic store. There used to be a small complex here. People were selling, well, soft drinks. The local women talk about the tragedy that happened here with an almost unsettling calm. Who survived?
65-year-old woman. And the owner, they said, lost an arm and a leg. The 5-year-old girls too, either a leg or something else. Everything was torn off there as well.
Nets. Continuous tunnels of nets. The Donetsk region is already wrapped in them. The roads of Dnipropetrovsk region are being covered with nets too. Dozens of teams are working in all directions everywhere nearby. But even these builders don't know for sure if this shelter will be saved from an enemy strike.
At least the drone is stopped from a direct hit. At least that is something. Some small hope to survive, to keep going.
This team's daily quota is to cover a kilometer of road with netting. Very soon, all the main highways leading to the Donetsk region will look like this. But will this solve the situation? Alexander Zahorodny, Alexei Osipchuk, Vitaly Ovsyanikov, TSN 1+1.
For $10,000, he promised to smuggle someone out of the country in a bus trunk. The organizer of the illegal smuggling of conscripts abroad was exposed in the Zhytomyr region. The 35-year-old man was detained by police while he was receiving money from a client. The person involved in the case is a driver of an international bus route. And during one of the trips, he offered to smuggle a draft dodger in the luggage compartment among the suitcases. He priced his services at $10,000 and was detained during the handover of the money. He is currently under round-the-clock house arrest and faces up to 9 years behind bars. That was the same day when the Ukrainian armed forces liberated the right bank of the Kherson region. 3 years ago, the blue and yellow flag returned to Kherson itself. It was the only regional center that the occupiers managed to capture during the full-scale invasion. The city was under occupation for 8 months, but it set an example of partisan resistance. TSN correspondent Natalia Nahorna recalled how it was.
These are the scenes that brought even the strongest to tears. On this day 3 years ago, the Ukrainian army raised blue and yellow flags and entered the settlements at the edge of the right bank. The largest and longest celebration swept through the city of Kherson. People with blue and yellow flags rejoiced and proved it. Kherson was waiting for the armed forces of Ukraine. The occupation of the Kherson region began on February 24, 2022.
Russian armed forces units took full control of the regional center, Kherson.
But the occupiers entered the city itself on March 1st. That day turned into the tragedy of Buskivy High. Dozens of Kherson territorial defense fighters, almost unarmed and all in civilian clothes, were mercilessly shot by the occupiers. The bodies of those killed then had to be collected by locals and buried in mass graves.
We also pray for the brave warriors, the departed, the newly fallen.
But the tragedy in Buskivy High does not stop the courageous people of Kherson. The city is under occupation, but on the central square, thousands of brave people gather with blue and yellow flags. Step aside. The Russians managed to stop these rallies, but not the partisan movement. Cars carrying occupiers regularly exploded in the city. Already in July, the residents of Kherson region were warned that the city would not be left under occupation. HIMARS play a key role. Strikes on the Antonivsky Bridge give hope. Russia is staging a fake referendum to annex the occupied territories. But soon after, the occupiers make a so-called gesture of goodwill. They flee and the Ukrainian army advances. They are greeted with flowers and endless hugs. The occupiers blow up the Antonivsky Bridge, the TV tower, strategic enterprises, and loot museums. But the whole world saw how much Kherson longed for this freedom. Trains started running to Kherson, even though after that the enemy repeatedly shelled both the station itself and the passenger cars. Locals joyfully tore down posters that claimed Russia was here forever. Of course, in our memory, the city of Kherson is like this. Very warm and full of watermelons, where people weave nets in the square. On the former pedestal of Lenin, there are portraits of our heroes. Alongside the joy of liberation, the uncovering of Russia's crimes always follows. Reports emerge about abductions, torture, and torture chambers. In June 2023, Russia blew up the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant. Kherson and the nearby villages and towns experienced a flood. The city was covered by a great flood, but people from all over Ukraine came to help Kherson and the surrounding settlements. These 3 years of freedom have come at a very high price for Kherson. Russia terrorizes the hero city with constant shelling, kills Kherson residents, and destroys their homes. but tens of thousands of people are holding on to their native Kherson. On their approach to the city, long kilometers of road are covered with anti-drone nets. The enemy reaches all districts of the city and beyond with guided bombs and air-dropped munitions. The central square where people celebrated the liberation was destroyed by air bombs and missile strikes. But the city continues to fight and proves it every day. Kherson is Ukraine. Natalia Nahorna, Ihor Siri, TSN 1+1.
The number of Ukrainian male asylum seekers in the EU has reached a record high. This was reported by the publication D-Site. The main reason for the increase was the Ukrainian government's decision to allow men aged 18 to 22 to travel abroad. As a result, the share of adult men among new refugees rose to 47% and for the first time exceeded the number of women. According to Eurostat, in September, nearly 80,000 Ukrainians in total were granted asylum in EU countries. According to the latest data, there are 4.3 million Ukrainians with temporary protection there. In Germany and Poland. At the same time, Brussels is gradually preparing to end temporary protection for Ukrainian refugees. Its term expires in less than a year and a half. After that, the fate of nearly 5 million Ukrainians will be decided by the member states. But it is unlikely that they will offer fundamentally new statuses. Primarily those who work or study there will be able to stay in the EU. Here are some comments on this matter from Germany and the Czech Republic. They say they will have problems in the labor market, especially with unskilled workers.
We are working on this. We are currently considering options for how employed people could stay in Germany, especially if they are not highly qualified workers.
The current type of permit has a very high income threshold. Only people who have a high-paying job can obtain it, or other high incomes. We should consider work and residence permits available for cleaners, teachers, and their parents. And this needs to be inclusive, otherwise member states will face even bigger problems.
Instruments never before heard in Kyiv, and music that proves Ukraine is an integral part of Europe. The Baroque Fest music festival has opened in the capital, lasting 12 days and bringing together world-renowned stars. TSN was lucky enough to attend the musicians' final rehearsals and, for example, hear the ancient zinc or cornet, an instrument played in Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries, now considered the great-grandfather of the flute. The Philharmonic will also feature the sounds of the harpsichord and organ works. And these pieces will be performed by world-class musicians from Germany, France, the Czech Republic, Poland, Belgium, Italy, and the United Kingdom. It turned out to be easy to bring them together in Kyiv. Everyone responded enthusiastically to the invitation, and some even asked to donate their fees to the armed forces of Ukraine.
This style in Ukraine emerged from numerous exchanges with other European countries. So, knowing about Baroque is just like knowing about the Cossacks, but from a cultural perspective.
When you perform this music, it's as if you immerse yourself in that era, those traditions, that atmosphere.
These were the interim results for this Tuesday. My colleague Solomia Witkowska will sum up the full picture of the day, as always, at 7:30 p.m.